Hello, New Mexico, and welcome to another episode of Around the Roundhouse, a podcast featuring the policies, politics, and you guessed it, personalities of the land of enchantment. I'm your host, Daniel Chacón. I'm honored to introduce our guest this week, Santa Fe County Sheriff Adan Mendoza. A Santa Fe native who grew up in the traditional village of La Cieneria, Mendoza began his career with Santa Fe County as a code enforcement officer in 1996 before moving into law enforcement 2 years later in 1998. After graduating from the New Mexico Law Enforcement Academy with distinction, delivering the valedictory address to his graduating class, he joined the sheriff's office as a deputy and quickly climbed the ranks before retiring as a major in 2016. A Democrat, Mendoza was elected sheriff in 2018. He was reelected 4 years later and is now serving the final months of his final term in office. Sheriff, it's great to see you. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for having me on this afternoon. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So thanks for having me.
For sure. I wanted to kick things off by saying, you've had quite a career. Looking back at your entire tenure, what past decision or policy are you most proud of? And which one would you reverse if you could?
Well, that's a pretty good question. As far as policies are concerned, you know, we've I've, over the last couple of years, we've been revamping our policies to make them more modern, more relevant. And so our deputies have some solid policies. The agency has solid policies to fall back on. I don't know if I can really look at one policy that I would say that we enacted that I would go back and repeal or change. There was a lot of policies and a lot of practices that were happening during COVID, which was part of my first term, and I think it was we were navigating in uncharted waters. Nobody, to my knowledge, in recent years or decades had done this, and it was very difficult. Decisions were being made in reference to uh, masks and vaccinations, and very difficult decisions were being made, and we were making the best decisions possible based on the circumstances, based on medical advice, based on county policies. And I just want to say that if I could go back, knowing what I know now, I'd like to just re-navigate that, rethink some of those things. Not that I would change anything specifically that comes to mind, but that was a very difficult time for the sheriff's office, for the country in general, for the county, for employees, for employers, for the public. It set us back quite a bit, and so that was a very trying time for me as sheriff and for my staff and for everybody. And so that would probably be the time that I would want to go back and reflect on.
Well, I'll tell you that I would want to go back and change something because I was working from home and I was wearing sweats a lot. And so I gained a little bit of weight. So if I could go back, I would wear jeans all the time. Sheriff, may I ask you, is there a policy or issue that you fought hard to change but couldn't?
Um, No, I can't think of something. The county's been very supportive of law enforcement and the sheriff's office. And in reality, being an elected official, I have pretty much full control over policies that are enacted and operations here at the sheriff's office. I don't know if I could pick out one policy that I tried to pass. I'll talk about one recent situation that we've had, and that's with the implementation of AI and facial recognition. We were approached by the county and asked about facial recognition as a tool for law enforcement. I know that's controversial right now, and so right now that's been tabled. I'll leave that decision for the next sheriff to decide whether or not he wants to proceed with that type of technology. And I know that the public is very hesitant sometimes for these technologies. License plate readers and facial recognition, and there's concerns over privacy and things like that, and I understand that. And so we got to navigate those concerns and we got to listen to the public and their concerns in reference to the technology. But law enforcement is evolving very fast, technology wise, and we got to keep up with those times. We think back to DNA, how controversial that was, and
Mm.
fingerprints, and I'm sure there were some of the same concerns when those tools were implemented into law enforcement, and we know now that DNA and fingerprints and some of those tools that were probably controversial at the time are important tools to solving crimes, for convicting individuals and holding people responsible. And so I think as we move forward, we want to carefully navigate those decisions, but we may look back and realize that these important tools, license plate readers and facial recognition, are something that will be important for law enforcement to hold suspects accountable and find justice for victims. So if that was one thing, I'd probably say that now. But again, I'll leave that for the next sheriff to navigate and work with the public to make those decisions.
So, as you indicated, we will have a new sheriff come January. It'll likely be Paul Joye, retired Santa Fe Police Chief Paul Joye, since there is not a Republican on the ballot, and you endorsed Chief Joye. Do you think that that's the top unaddressed issue that he'll have to tackle on day one, in terms of the facial recognition issue?
I think if he chooses to, he may revisit it, and he may choose not to. I don't know exactly what his stance is. I know he had made some comments that he was concerned about the use of the data
Mhm.
collected by the companies, and I think that's a valid concern, and I think the public is concerned about that also. So I don't know if that's going to be the number one situation or decision that he'll have to deal with. I know that'll probably may be on the table or it may not be, but I think his priority is to come in, assess the sheriff's office, assess the divisions and the personnel here, the policies, and make a determination on the path that he wants to forge forward. I think the sheriff's office is in good hands. I supported, I endorsed
Mhm.
retired Chief Joy. I think it's a great decision. He was the had the best experience and knowledge out of all the candidates, and I think the sheriff's office is going to be in great hands. I'm happy to see. I'll be happy to see him moving forward and all the things that he does and move and keep moving the sheriff's office in a forward direction. So yeah, I'm excited.
And he'll take over a pretty, what's the right word? Almost fully staffed, force. What were your strategies for successful recruitment and retention at the sheriff's office?
Well, I think taking care and supporting the deputies, the men and women that work here is important, and civilian staff. We can't forget about them. They play an important role here at the sheriff's office and in any law enforcement organization. But working with them to make sure that they feel important, that they feel supported, and that is one of the main things. One of the difficult things that we've navigated as far as personnel is concerned is the drive. The lack of affordable housing in Santa Fe means that a lot of the workforce and deputies and civilian staff live in Rio Rancho or in Albuquerque or more affordable communities, and it's very difficult to recruit people to work here in Santa Fe because if you're asking them to work a 10-hour day, they have a 1 hour drive in and a 1 hour drive back home. So that's a 12-hour day. And that doesn't include whether they pick up a late call or they have something that they need to do that will increase their time at work. So more people like to work near their homes. They can spend more time with their family. The commute time is shorter. So those were some of the challenges. One of the things that we did do that was very successful is what we call the 4840 work schedule. And that has been very successful for the sheriff's office to bolster our numbers and recruitment and retention. That allows deputies to take an hour before shift and an hour after shift to spend time on mental health, physical health, and well being, which is really important in law enforcement. I think growing up in law enforcement in the 90s and the 2000s, there was less focus on that. There was less focus on the individual and the employee, and it was, I was just happy to have a job. To be honest with you, I was showing up, I was loving what I was doing, and I was getting paid for it, and it was amazing. And but throughout my career, I handled critical calls, saw and heard a lot of things that the normal public just doesn't deal with, and it could be taxing on an individual. And so we really focused on that with the 4840. We recruited people from out of state, in state, to join the sheriff's office, and we're doing pretty well as far as numbers. The new sheriff will come in. I think right now we're sitting at 12 vacancies, which seems like a lot, but we just picked up 5 new deputy positions this last budget year. We worked with the county, and we did a staffing study, and we realized that we need more deputies on patrol and at the sheriff's office to be able um, to provide the level of service that the community deserves. And so 5 of those 12 are brand new positions. And we've lost some folks to retirement, and a few to other agencies still concerned about spending time with family and things like that. But it's been a challenge, and it's going to be a continued challenge in law enforcement to retain and recruit quality individuals to come and do the job of law enforcement. It's changed a lot. It's definitely changed a lot, and so it's a great career. I'd do it all over again. If I could retire tomorrow and reapply, I'd do it all over again.
Well, I was going to ask you, I was going to save this for the end, but I was going to ask you what the future holds for Adan Mendoza come December 31st.
Yeah, so it's. I know a lot of people have asked me that question. It's a difficult question, right? I've been in law enforcement for 27 years. It's what I know.
Yeah.
It's what I love. It's in my heart. Public service is a calling, and I think people do this job because of the satisfaction of helping people and solving problems, and that's what's in my heart. I grew up around it. I've been with this agency for many many years. I was, proud and honored to have served in the role of sheriff. I think we've done a great job to bring along the agency and support and continue some of the things that the prior sheriff before me, Robert Garcia, did and his staff to build this agency. And I know Paul will do the same thing. But as far as what the future holds for me, I don't know. I never say never to anything. I will keep all my options open.
Okay.
And I will say one thing: there has been rumors and probably little chatter, but I am applying for the chief for the city of Santa Fe. I will put my name in the hat and go through the process and hopefully be part of amazing things. I think now with a new mayor and some new counselors and you. I know and the public knows that the mayor is doing a fantastic job, and I'd like to be part of that. So that may work out. That may be in my future, and it may not be. But I'm hopeful and I'm positive, and we'll see where that goes.
Okay, thank you for letting us know about that. Sheriff, as you indicated, you've made a career in public service. Were you inspired by your mom, who is so well known in this community for her activism and who I have still great admiration and respect for?
Daniel, thanks for remembering my mom, and I know that you were a friend of hers, and she considered you a friend. And it'll be 7 years now in December that my mom hasn't been with us, and we miss her
Yeah,
a whole lot, and I know the community does too. But absolutely, my mom loved Santa Fe. I love Santa Fe. I grew up with an inherent love for my community,
yeah,
the people here. My mom fought hard for community and issues and loved Santa Fe, and was very passionate about Santa Fe. And I did get that from her. And I'll
okay,
tell you, one thing that I'm proud about is that my mom was still alive when I got elected as sheriff, and she told me some she set me down the right path. Told me, hey, you really need to do this. You need to give back to the people. You can do great things. But going back to initially my law enforcement career, my mom always told me treat people with respect. They're people of our community. They live here. They're somebody's son. They're somebody's father. They're somebody's relative or friend or coworker. Always, always treat people with respect. And I live that by those words my whole career, and I'm proud of that. And yeah, so I thank you for remembering my mom, Daniel, and she's greatly missed.
Yes.
And so hopefully I can continue. I have given great service to Santa Fe and the community, and maybe I can continue to do that.
Going back to what you mentioned about applying for the chief's position here at the city of Santa Fe, may I ask why?
Why?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, again, I was finishing out my term here, and I was watching closely the elections that were happening within the city this last year, and there was some great candidates, and when the mayor Garcia was elected, I really saw his energy,
Okay.
and I really saw that Santa Fe spoke, that they really wanted change. And he stepped into that role and has done great things, been very positive. He's been very transparent and engaged in Santa Fe. And when I saw all that, I said, you know what, I want to be part of that. Um, in my role as law enforcement, because that's what I know, right? And so there was an opening in the chief position. They've had some great interims, and so I said, I want to be part of that positivity. I want to be part of that change. I want to have a positive impact on Santa Fe, and I'll do it with the knowledge that I grew up with, and my career and my experience, and that's the way I can give back. And it's not just in law enforcement, but it's really caring and loving Santa Fe, just like I explained. And um, you know, I just want to continue to do that. Whether even if I'm not chief or I'm not sheriff, I want to be a positive part of of Santa Fe in this community.
Okay. Sheriff, I wanted to ask you about something that was in the news recently. We learned that the DEA, the Enforcement Administration, knowingly allowed New Mexico to be flooded with fentanyl. When that story broke, how did it make you feel as someone dealing with such a dangerous drug on the streets?
Disappointed. If I could use one word, it was disappointed, and I was a little angry about that. I think some of the facts are still coming out. I think this is going to be a big issue, not only for New Mexico and the communities in New Mexico, but forever wherever it may have happened. Also, we don't know that, but I think the facts are still coming out. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but based on the headlines that I read, it's
Mhm,
disappointing. Fentanyl has devastated our communities and our people. People are struggling with addiction, and our overdose rates are
mhm,
are uh, on the increase. And to imagine that another federal agency, people that we consider partners and other law enforcement, may have allowed this to happen is it's it's I can't even imagine that they allowed that to happen. It's having a devastating effect on our community, and we should all be concerned if it turns out that this was true, that this happened, and we need to find out why it happened, and find out what we can do to correct it.
I don't want to scoop the New Mexican, but just to let our viewers know that we are working on a package of stories for this weekend that delve into this subject. Switching topics here, Sheriff, your office handled some pretty high profile cases that generated tons of media attention. It was like a media circus in Santa Fe sometimes, from the fatal shooting, unfortunately, on the Rust movie set to the also unfortunate deaths of actor Gene Hackman and his wife. How does that kind of attention impact your investigative work?
Well, it was national news, and I think we did a great job navigating um, the press, and and trying to be as transparent as possible. So that the public could get the information that they wanted and that they needed, and so they could have a clear understanding what was happening. It's difficult sometimes to conduct investigations when so much of the information is being released out into the media and into the public, which is understandable. But we stayed focused. We have a great investigation team. I think the best in the state. They're well seasoned, well knowledgeable, well experienced detectives, both men and women, and they do a fantastic job. And they stayed focused during their investigation. I think they did a tremendous job investigating both of those cases. And we did get we prosecuted one individual from the Russ case, and unfortunately, there was a technicality in reference to Alec Baldwin on the Russ case. And I guess the question there is whether or not Alec Baldwin should have stood trial. And I think that's up for a long discussion. And maybe when all this is settled, I'd like to really give my opinion about how that should have happened. But
Want to ask you about that, Sheriff,
yeah,
because as it relates to the Russ case, the judge dismissed, as you indicated, the involuntary manslaughter charge against Baldwin, really over a box of ammunition, as I understand it, that was entered into evidence under a different case number than all other evidence related to the shooting. I don't know if you want to talk about this right now, but who bears responsibility for that?
well, ultimately, I do. I'm the sheriff. I run the agency. That box of evidence. I mean, that box of ammo was turned into evidence. There was
Yes.
nothing. I want to say this. There was nothing intentional. We weren't intentionally trying to withhold evidence. It was a miscommunication on all parts. I, as a sheriff, will take our responsibility for our part in that evidence and how it was handled. But I want to say this: that there was no intention to withhold any evidence, and I won't second guess the judge's decision on the case, but it was disappointing, and it was disappointing for myself, for this agency, for the detectives that put all the hard work into the case. And that's all I'll say about that. There is still pending litigation in reference to this case, so I don't want to get too deep into the case, but it was disappointing. But ultimately, I think there's responsibility that goes all around for everyone. But we'll take the responsibility for our part, and I will as sheriff, and we do as an agency. So.
Okay. Sheriff, switching topics here a little bit on based on what's happening at the federal level. How has the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration affected your office's relationship with a very large immigrant community here in Santa Fe County?
I think we have a great relationship with the immigrant community. I do stay appraised of national um, news and policies and things like that. And I know there's a lot of hesitation. We haven't dealt with ICE specifically. We haven't been called to assist them. I haven't had any information that our deputies have engaged with ICE. I know that there's been things on Facebook and reports and things that ICE has been enforcing immigration laws here in Santa Fe. But the biggest impact it has is it's affected our communities, and I think it's added to a little bit of distrust and it for law enforcement in general, which is not good. We want our immigrant community to feel safe. When they have an emergency, want them to feel comfortable calling 911 and knowing that the sheriff's office will respond and will take care of the situation and be treated equally. And so, ICE has not engaged us. We haven't assisted ICE in any operations, and so I think the biggest impact it had is the fear and adding to the and to some distrust of law enforcement in general, and that's unfortunate because we do have like I stated, we do have a great relationship with our immigrant community, a lot of a mutual respect between them and us, and so you know I, I I think it's a good thing that we're doing here, but a not so good thing about how some things are being enforced and how situations are being handled.
Yes, sir. Sheriff, I got to ask you, what are you going to miss the most about being sheriff, and what are you going to miss the least?
Well, wow. I think what I'm going to miss most about it is the people here,
Yeah.
the employees, my administrative staff, the deputies, you know, coming into the office and feeling so proud when I see deputies, you know, either coming or going from the office, knowing that they're out there doing a great job, that they're representing the sheriff's office in the best and professional light, and just knowing that I'm part of that, that I'm leading that, and and it's a feeling that I can't really put into words. Um, I'm very humbled by it, to be honest with you. And so I'm gonna miss all the employees and people calling. You know, we do get complaints. Every law enforcement agency does, but you know, for the most part, Daniel, we get a lot of compliments on the way our deputies handle calls, the way they treat people. I would say that we probably get more compliments than we do complaints, and uh, and I really am proud of that, and proud of the work that the deputies and all the staff do here. But I'm really gonna miss that. And I think the thing that I will miss the least is is probably dealing with some personnel issues, right?
Yeah.
Disciplines and things like that. Accountability is tough, and nobody likes to have to discipline people, but it's a necessary part of doing business.
Yeah.
And you know, I know people have families, and you know, I have a big heart. I'm a big family man, and you know, I was close to my family, and my mom was big on family, and it's very difficult, but it's an important part of the job is accountability, and I think we've done a great job there. But I won't miss that, and I don't necessarily care for that part of the job, but that'd probably be it.
Okay. Well, I will echo some of the compliments that your deputies have received, because every time that I've had, any interaction with folks on your force, they have been just utmost professional. So I will echo those compliments. Um, Sheriff, any parting words for the community, for this community of Santa Fe County? Anything you'd like to end with?
You know, I just like to say thank you, really from my heart, for allowing me the honor of serving as sheriff for Santa Fe. Um, I wasn't sure when I was approached, and I did want to do it, but when I was approached, and actually somebody serious came and said, "Hey, you need to run for sheriff, and this is how we can do it." And I will give kudos to my friend Juan Rios, who was my campaign manager and an important part of how I got elected. But when he came to me and he said, "This is what you know, this is what we need to do." Um, I wasn't sure that I had it in me or that I would get elected. And when I was, it was something that I was honored, and I wasn't going to let Santa Fe down. In the media, in these high profile cases, I always wanted to make Santa Fe proud, and I want to say thank you to Santa Fe, and I hope that I have made Santa Fe proud and done a good job in providing services to everybody here. And I just really want to say a heartfelt thank you to Santa Fe. I love you.
All right. Well, a heartfelt thank you to you, sir, for being our guest today. And as always, our thanks to our viewers and listeners for tuning into Around the Roundhouse. Join us every week as we talk to newsmakers in the political realm by subscribing to our podcast through Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For the latest developments, as I mentioned, upcoming package that's coming up this weekend. Follow our coverage online at santafenewmexican.com, where you can also subscribe to our political newsletter, The Roundhouse Report. Until next time, I'm Daniel Chacón, and this has been Around the Roundhouse.